Is everybody ready? Alright. So a lot of people, when they walked in, they saw, "Are you open-minded?" Sadly, a lot of people replied with, "Not really." So that's going to make my job a lot harder. And the topic that I picked today is something that I really like. A lot of people like it also that are around my age group and older, and male. So I want you to keep calm. Are you ready? I kid you not. There are people my age and older, male, that watch the show and enjoy it. And that might bring up a lot of questions. Why? And you must be thinking, and right now take a moment and think about what you're thinking and keep that in mind, because later on I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you why that's wrong. So, you may know this show, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Powerpuff Girls, and The Kids Next Door. You know those three shows. If you don't, it's more likely that you've been abducted by aliens and your mind has been erased and you forgot them, because there's no way in your childhood you have not watched one of these three shows. And the reason why they're all similar, all written by this woman. And she is actually named Lauren Faust, and she, this is her as a pony, because she wrote the show, and of course the fandom had the right to draw her as a pony. But she is responsible for all the shows, and she works on the hub. And when she joined the hub, she wanted to make her own show. All those dolls she's holding, that's a part of the show that she wanted to make, but the hub denied it. So they just said, "Well, we don't want you to make your own show, but we want you to see what you can do with this show." And they handed her My Little Pony. And of course, when she was little, this show was around in the late 80s. So she watched it when she was a kid, and she had her own vision of the show, like most kids do when they watch a show. They have like their own picture of what adventures they go on and whatnot. So without her, this show would not be as much of a success than it is. So keep in mind that those three shows that I showed you before are shows that you enjoyed at one point in your life. So maybe this show might be as good as those, maybe not. Keep an open mind. So I'm gonna go through, and I'll start with what you most likely think about the show. And then after I go through and say what you probably think, I'm going to say what the truth is, so what the facts are. So the next part is the viewers, quote unquote. This is probably what you think the viewers are, especially if they're older than me and they're males. It's probably what you have in mind, but that's not the case. This statistic and percentage was done at BronyCon last year, and yes, there's a BronyCon. I'm hoping to go in 2014. The percentage says that the majority is 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds, and they're all in college, well-educated, and a majority being heterosexual, aka straight. Which not just that's the stereotypical. If they watch a girly show, they're gay. Well, that's not the case. So you may think, what is the appeal of this show? Well, especially for a show that was made to be an advertisement for a little girl's toy, and also intended for girls, and not just girls. 1 second. Little girls. And that's what would put off a lot of people from the show. Well, the appeal really being that there's 5 characteristic traits in the show that everybody can relate to. And the first one is, if you look at this picture, think about what you can tell me about this picture. There's a characteristic in this picture. It's loyalty. And there's 5 traits. Honesty. There's 2 traits with this one, and it being generosity and kindness. And then the last one being laughter, knowing when to laugh and when to enjoy life. And then there's the 6 characters. Sadly, I can remember the names: Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Rarity, Twilight, Fluttershy, and Pinkie Pie. Sadly, I know all those names. And each one of these characters are somebody that you know in real life. And this first one is going to catch a lot of people's attention. These are the 6 main characters, because of course, pun. Anyway, this one's a cowgirl, and she's very a big sister. She always likes to be the big sister in the group, and she wants to help out everybody. And sometimes she overstresses herself to help everybody, and she doesn't really see what's good for herself sometimes. The next one being an athlete, someone that's really athletically prone, and she knows that she's really athletically prone, and she's not sometimes not really modest about it. Sometimes she likes to really brag about it, but she always knows when to help others and be kind and whatnot. Next one is an overly formal person, someone that's really fancy, doesn't want to get their hooves in the mud. But, I know I just made that joke. Anyway, next one being a bookworm, someone that would prefer staying home reading a good book than going out and hanging out. Next one being shy person, very kind, doesn't really like to interact with anybody, but when they do, they're really kind to them. Next one being a very hyperactive person, someone that sometimes can get on your nerves of how excited they are about a certain thing. And those are the 6 main characters. You probably have all 6 in your life right now. So just keep in mind that if you ever want to give the show a chance, just keep those people in mind and you're really going to relate to the show. Alright, next thing, the reason. I'm going to go a bit further into the reason of watching the show. Now, what makes the brain tick when they see a show about little ponies in a magical world? Well, for the fact that all these characters right here have a story. Like, some smaller than others, but still, everybody has a story. Everybody's relatable. Everybody here will, if you see them smile, you're probably going to smile back at them because of how much you like them. And I'll go a bit further than that. What I mean by some smaller than others, if there isn't even a main character, just someone that's in the background of the show. Don't worry, you get a backstory. This one, in the first episode, background, reason why I call out people's eyes is because it was cross-eyed. Any animator would tell you that the reason why is because an animation glitch, but the community named her Derpy because the eyes crossed. And then this one, being in the show for literally less than 5 seconds, a DJ, they named her Vinyl Scratch. Being a DJ, they gave her her entire backstory, episodes on YouTube, music videos. Oh my gosh, stop. There's too much. And even Doctor Who. They see this pony and they instantly think Doctor Who, and they give them an entire episode. It's hour long. And then also going into the story of the show, which I should probably mention if you're ever going to give the show a chance. The main story just being them becoming better ponies as the show progresses. And this is the main storyline, the plot, the main idea. So this is what the episodes usually lie on throughout the entire show. So at the end of every episode, this character, Twilight Sparkle, she writes a letter to her teacher about the lessons of friendship, which sounds really corny, I know, and cheesy. But of course, this being a kid's show, there are some episodes that don't really have to do with anything, and it's just off the main plot. So it's just around the place. But I should go into who her teacher is. Her teacher is this Princess Celestia, and she is the ruler of the region. And I say princess, and I still get confused with that. I'm like, okay, so there's no king, there's no queen. Like, really? I don't really get the monarchy there, but whatever. Now the next thing is, I'm usually a very scientific person. If most of you don't know me, but still, I'm very scientific. And how can I watch a show that has to do primarily about magic? Well, the fact being that the show, unofficially, but they state it, is that science in their reality is replaced by magic. So that's a premise that I can't question, so I can watch it because science doesn't exist in a reality, magic does. So the sun that's raised is raised by magic. Think about Greek mythology, it was raised by a chariot. So that's kind of like the premise. Just everything being mythological and everything being magic. So I can't question it, so whatever. I just live with it. And one other thing about the story is that you would probably think this is a perfect world, being a little kid's show. Throw that out there, that's not true at all. Actually, in fact, there are many creatures like this one, a timber wolf, that want to seek and destroy you. So, kind of get a little brutal sometimes, but still being a kid's show, they don't go too in depth with it. This is called a changeling. It changes into you and feeds off the compassion that others feel for you. So they'll feed off that and turn into you and probably get rid of you. This being an evil emperor, actually, in the show, and there are people that are kind of dictatorship on one episode, but of course he gets rid of, and everything goes back to being good. This character is interesting. This character is going to catch a lot of people's eyes, and he's actually named Discord, and I'll go a little bit into that right now. The best villain, in my opinion, he's an embodiment of chaos and disharmony, and he's actually played by this actor, John Delancey, if anybody gets it. No, I guess not, of course. He's actually famous for his role of Q in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Sorry for the abrupt ending, but basically what happened was the camera glitched out a minute before it ended. So basically the ending of my persuasive presentation is the fact that after learning all these things about the community, I hope that I've changed your mind about the view of this huge and vast community that's still growing, and hopefully you can come to terms with this community and maybe give it a chance, but my main message is just to be nice to them and accept them. That's all I'm trying to say. But I hope that you can either join the herd, or maybe you're just going to have to deal with it. Because frankly, they're not going anywhere, and we're staying for a long time. And frankly, we're still growing.